Starting in 2020, I became a full-time trader for 2 years and didn't have a single source of income outside of trading. My first FTMO payout was $6,917.59. My second one was pretty small at $911.87, and my third one was $2,129.55, so on and so forth. Trading full-time is a goal that many traders have, and it was a goal that I had for a very long time, but it took me forever to get there. There was a ton of frustration and pain required to get to that point, and in hindsight, there's a lot of things that I could have done differently to become a full-time trader much faster, much sooner than the 6 years that it took me. So today we're going to grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to become a full-time trader and what I could have done to become a full-time trader and quit my job much faster. If you potentially have the goal of going full-time, the goal with this video is to help you get there faster. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I started trading all the way back in 2016, and at the time I was 15, 16 years old. I was working minimum wage folding pants at The Gap and Tommy Hilfiger. So obviously I spent every second at those jobs dreaming of doing something different, dreaming of being a trader. Ultimately, my goal with trading was just to make a few $1,000s a month. I dreamt of renting an Airbnb in some city in Europe for a month for like $1,500, which was possible back then, and just traveling, and there was no Lambos, there were no Rolexes in the dreams. It was just to have freedom and to travel and to live a good life. And because I didn't have these unrealistic goals, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility of achieving. But unfortunately, I made some deadly mistakes between 2016 and 2020 that just put me further and further away from accomplishing that goal. Here's a few. More specifically, here are 3 things that I did that perhaps and likely you guys watching have done as well, but if you can avoid these, you'll be much further ahead. First off, I always thought that there was a better strategy just around the corner. It was shiny object syndrome, but the truth is, if I had just stuck with the first strategy that I learned, which was like pattern trading, I would have been a profitable trader. Number 2, going half-assed. Now, I probably could have worded this better, because when I first got into trading, I was absolutely obsessed with it. I worked very, very hard, and I didn't half-ass it. But when I say I half-assed it, I mean it more in terms of my execution. I quickly, after finding trading, I quickly became obsessed with the analysis, with the art of trading. And I became an economist, essentially, rather than a trader. And that set me back a long ways, because it was basically mental masturbation of looking at the charts, trying to find the perfect setup, charting different strategies, rather than just focusing on the job at hand, and that is to execute a trade, and it is to make money. And so really, you got to go all in on the execution and what's actually going to make you the money. At least that's what I needed to do. Number 3, being a total idiot. For the first 4 years of trading, I was just so dumb, because funded accounts and prop firms weren't really a thing, and so I was trying to grow my own personal capital, which is just absolutely painful. But you know, I would always run the numbers and say 5 full margin trades and I will basically be buying the Lambo. I'll be a millionaire. And the numbers don't lie. It is true. If you have $1,000 account and you go full margin on a whatever 3-to-1, 5-to-1 risk to reward trade, and all 5 in a row are winners, you can make a ton of money. But unfortunately, the market says otherwise. The market is volatile, and we all know that is never the case. And so because I was always trying to go full margin, just do stupid things to make a quick dollar and to grow my account, I always got caught in circles going around and around and never actually making any money. So if that is you, please be patient. Now we have prop firms, which are a total game changer. You don't need to do that. You don't need to make the same mistakes that I made. All that to say, if I had the proper mindset and the proper amount of patience and discipline from the very beginning, I would have avoided a ton of pain and a ton of money. But of course, we all see countless Forex videos, including my own, where, you know, I say patience, discipline, risk management. These things are all boring, but all of these things require a mindset shift, which is possible. But for myself personally, I have found that the easiest way to make a mindset shift is to change something in your objective environment. So rather than just trying to meditate and just, you know, convincing yourself to have this mindset shift, what is it that we can actually do in our physical life to have a better mindset? And that brings me to step 2, which is that I had poor planning. The thing about trading is that it really doesn't require a lot of time. If you're a scalper, sure, maybe you need to spend a few hours a day staring at the screens. Being a 1 minute, 5 minute, chart warrior, that's fine. But if you are more of a swing trader or you're going for larger moves like I do, you can literally do everything within an hour, and that leaves you a ton of free time. So the question is, what is it that you should do with the other 23 hours in the day? And this is a crucial question, very simple, but not one that I actually asked myself when I first got into trading. So rather than trying to be productive with these other hours, I would twiddle my thumbs, I would force trades, I would get into trades that I shouldn't have, and this just got me into a ton of trouble. I eventually realized that while some of us do indeed get into trading because of the love of trading and the interest in the financial markets, many of us get into trading ultimately just because we want to make money. And so rather than sitting on my hands, or I should have been sitting on my hands, rather than twiddling my thumbs for the rest of the day, I should have been productive. I should have started building a business or thinking of ways that I could increase my income outside of trading, because this is what was actually going to allow me to become a full-time trader much faster. From my experience, especially since running Lark Funding, the traders that need the money the most are the traders that do the worst, because they're not patient, they need the money, and so they over risk, and it's just not going to work out. If you're desperate for a payout, if you're not patient, you're playing with fire. The easiest way around this to get to a point where you don't actually need trading is, of course, to start a business. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but what I'm saying here, at least for myself, what I needed was I needed a source of income outside of trading where I actually no longer needed trading. It seems counterintuitive to say, I want to be a trader, but I need to get to a point where I don't need trading. But if you don't need money from a payout, if you don't need to grow your personal capital, if you don't need money from trading, the stress that comes with trading basically just melts away. You're no longer anxious and forcing those trades to get that payout, to pay your rent, to keep a roof over your head. Trading is so volatile, the market is so unpredictable that really having that extra source of income outside of trading, perhaps in the real world and off the charts, it's a total game changer. Now, you might be thinking you don't know how to start a business, you don't have any ideas for a business, and that was me for a long time, but I'm going to share with you two very, very simple frameworks that have completely changed my perspective on business, to the point where before I couldn't come up with a business idea, and now I have too many ideas jumping around in my head. First things first, I would highly recommend you read the book The Millionaire Fastlane. It has kind of a scammy, not great name, but I seriously recommend it. It's a great business book, and it explains how you can indeed become very wealthy young. It's all about providing value, and the truth is, there's tons of content online saying put your money in the S&P 500, and there's a time and a place for that. I totally agree, but you're never going to see a 25-year-old driving a Lamborghini that says, "Oh yeah, I put my money in the S&P 500." So The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco, great book. The second framework that completely changed my perspective on this did come from The Millionaire Fastlane, at least I think it did, and it's how you approach problem. You see, if you just change how you listen to the environment around you, you will come to realize, if you haven't yet, that most people around us are complainers. I complain all the time. Everybody complains. But every time you hear a complaint, change your thinking to realize that that complaint represents a business opportunity. And if you hear the same complaint over and over again, then you can realize that, oh, that's actually a common pain point for people. And if I can find a way to solve it, that's going to provide a lot of value. And boom, there we have a business. If we take prop firms, for example, growing personal capital is incredibly difficult, and it's a difficulty that tons of traders experience. So boom, prop firms start up, and that resolves that problem. If we take Lark Funding specifically, when I was a funded trader, trying to become a funded trader as well, I was so tired and so frustrated with time limits. If a prop firm wants to fund professional traders, why are they forcing them to make 10% in 30 days? I was tired of it, so that is why we started Lark Funding with no time limits. Okay, let's move on to part 3. No going back. Okay, lastly, I'm going to tell you something that I did that was very stressful, made me very anxious, was very difficult. And for me, it was necessary. It's not going to be necessary for everybody, but for some of you watching, it might resonate, so I'm gonna share it with you. What I did was I put myself into a corner. I put myself into a situation where my back was up against the wall. Let me explain. I find often, at least for myself, In life, if we have a backup plan, then we don't go all in. By having a backup plan, it doesn't light that fire within you to force yourself to make things work. For example, when I was working a full-time job, my job was paying my bills. So if I didn't make a single dollar from trading, it didn't matter because I was still able to support myself. And as a result, yes, I continued to work hard in trading, but I didn't have that necessity. I didn't have that fire within me that forced myself to have to make things work. But sometimes I have found in life that when I force myself to get the result that I need, when there's no going back, when I burn the boat, that is when I see the best results. So when I decided to move out from my parents' place in 2020, move 45 minutes away to the city, I decided to not get a new job. I could have, but I wanted to finally see if I could make this work. And so instead of getting that job, I relied on the 9 to 12 months worth of living expenses that I had saved up. And I said, there is no going back. I am either going to fail miserably. It will be embarrassing. I'll have to go back to the Gap or work at a coffee shop. But I wanted to know whether or not I could make it work. And let me tell you, in hindsight, this is a great story. But in the moment, when you only see money leaving your bank account and no money coming into the bank account, it is very, very stressful, and I don't recommend it. In order to make this work, I lived as cheap as I could. We are talking about no going out, zero partying. I don't party anyways. The cheapest groceries possible, no coffees, no outings. I ran a very tight ship. We're talking about $1,000 a month. That is all I needed to pay my rent and to survive. I did this because I needed to make it work. And you know what happened? I did make it work. 3 to 4 months in, I got funded by FTMO, and a few months after that, I started receiving payouts on a regular basis, and I made it work. Would this have happened if I didn't go all in and I continued working a regular job? I don't know. I would like to think that no. Going all in and having this stress forced me to do what I needed to do. Now, the caveat here is, of course, I had very few responsibilities. I didn't own a home. I didn't have kids. So, of course, it was easier in my situation, but don't use it as a crux if you do have more responsibilities. Sometimes in life is short. We just have to make these decisions to go all in. If you are similar to me and you need that to light the fire within you. Let me leave you with this story. It's the year 334 BC, and Alexander the Great just landed on the shores of Persia with his army. Upon arrival, Alexander ordered his troops to burn down each and every ship they arrived in, leaving them no option but to conquer the battle that they were about to face. As the story goes, Alexander said to his men, "We'll either find a way or we will make one." And often in trading, it's the exact same thing. You either find a way or you make one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace.